Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 5, the table spread, from verses 78 to 83. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. لعن الذين كفروا من بني إسرائيل على لسان داود وعيسى بن مريم ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. Cursed were those who disbelieved from among the children of Israel by the tongue of David and Jesus, son of Mary. That is because they rebelled and used to transgress. كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون. They used not to prevent one another from the wrongs they used to commit. Evil is what they used to do. ترى كثيرا منهم يتولون الذين كفروا لبئس ما قدمت لهم أنفسهم أن سخط الله عليهم وفي العذاب هم خالدون. You will see many of them befriending those who disbelieved. Terrible is what their souls prompts them to do. The wrath of God fell upon them, and in the torment they will remain. ولو كانوا يؤمنون بالله والنبي وما أنزل إليه وما اتخذوهم أولياء ولكن كثيرا منهم فاسقون. Had they believed in God and the Prophet and in what was revealed to him, they would have not befriended them, but many of them are immoral. لتجدن أشد الناس عداوة للذين آمنوا اليهود والذين أشركوا ولتجدن أقربهم مودة للذين آمنوا الذين قالوا إن نصارى ذلك بأن منهم قسيسين ورهبانا وأنهم لا يستكبرون. You will find the people most hostile towards the believers are the Jews and the polytheists, and you will find the nearest in affection towards the believers are those who say we are Christians. That is because among them are priests and monks, and they are not arrogant. وإذا سمعوا ما أنزل إلى الرسول ترى أعينهم تفيض من الدمع مما عرفوا من الحق يقولون ربنا آمنا فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. And when they hear what was revealed to the messenger, you see their eyes overflowing with tears as they recognize the truth in it. They say, Our Lord, we have believed, so count us among the witnesses. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God, the Great, said the truth. Now, these verses are still talking about the children of Israel, and regarding to how, with all the blessings that God has given them from the book, from the messengers, from rescuing them from Pharaoh, for forgiving them many of their transgressions, giving them the quail and the manna, giving them the blessed lands, and making among them kings and prophets, and giving them huge blessings over the rest of all the other seeds on the earth, they still transgressed, and they still did not practice what God has told them to practice, and they went as far as also battling and belittling and lying towards or belying the messengers. Now, we should understand the mentality of the prophets, someone like David and Mary, or Jesus, the son of Mary. And let's understand how much patience these two individuals would have had. People who practice the religion know that, of course, patience is a cornerstone of the religion, and you have to be able to show that steadfast and that forgiveness and to lean towards being peaceful to people, especially people who are claiming to be believers. This is something that God has ordered us to do, which was He told the prophet to lower his wings towards the believers, but be staunch with the disbelievers. Now, David and Jesus both had to deal with this same group of people. And we understand that there has been a time between David and Jesus, just like how there's been a time between Jesus and Muhammad. Yet the characteristics of these individuals haven't really changed. It's the exact same way that they're being presented and the way that they're acting, that the individual who is pious, it seems like they are pushed to a point where they even curse them. They ask for God's damnation upon them is just because they're so insolent, and they're just individuals that are so hell-bent on trying to disturb whatever God is accomplishing and within his people. They are the worst of the creatures because these are people who claim that they believe in God, yet they're showing clear signs of hypocrisy. They don't care about the day of judgment. They don't care what's going to happen to them. They think that they're going to be saved no matter what, and they just constantly disrespect God and his messenger. This is something that we can clearly see because, as God says, that they continuously rebelled and they transgressed. And when one is doing a wrongdoing, us as believers, we should step up and tell that individual that you're doing wrong and you should stop. Obviously, we do not have control over the person, and we can't really force individuals to stop something that they're so keen on doing. But what we can do is constantly remind and admonish and use the verses of God and see lest that person gets a certain understanding where he would stop from doing the evil that they're committing. But we also know that within the children of Israel, which translates a lot of people in this day and age who claim to be believers, when they see someone committing evil or committing an obscenity, they don't step up and tell them to stop. They rather not get involved and turn a blind eye thinking that this is the way that they need to do it. And then unfortunately, other people go as far as following the people who are committing this evil and this crime, thinking that, well, you know what, they've found a way to justify it, so it's okay, and therefore I will do it as well. And you can see that the same individuals, Prophet Muhammad was told that you notice them and you see how these disbelievers act. They claim they're believers, yet they're going allying with those that are disbelievers. So how are you saying that you're a believer and that you're a ally of God, and yet you are a servant of God, and now you're befriending the criminals, those that are fighting the messenger and trying to disturb God's message or disrupt God's message and the spreading of God's message? This is something that you can understand that their souls, that they themselves is prompting them to do it, because they are just habitually individuals that overlook what God has made holy and what God has sanctified and what God has ordered to be done and what God is telling us what not to do. They are just simply not aware, not cognizant of God. They do not practice this consciousness that God has ordered us to do so. They tend to be people that do not really care about the prayer. They care about the worldly life and their possessions. So as far that they don't care that they are befriending the enemies of God, is just so that they would protect what they think is theirs or protect what they have. And God is telling us clearly that if they truly believed in God and the prophet and what was being revealed, they wouldn't have befriended the enemies of God. But it's just because of this immorality that they have in their bellies and their chest. They're not people that reason. And it's very difficult to have a conversation or to even try to guide or try to show the error of somebody who is so narcissistic in his style, where that he reached a level of arrogance where in so much that he thinks that God is working for him, that he saying that he believes in God, now he has these expectations from God that there's absolutely nothing that he can do which would take him away or take God away from him, because it's not the other way, which is the proper way, where you're the one who's working for God, and instead of you leaving God, rather God leaves you. And when God leaves you, this is truly when you're in the darkness, when you're blind, when you're not knowing what this life is about. You're so deluded and you're just so arrogant in your style. You think you're so happy and you're so fulfilled in your life, but yet when you truly measure who you are and you actually reflect, you might notice that these traits that you have is not something that a human should possess. You're somebody who's clearly arrogant. You put people down. You make fun of everything. You're so completely selfish. You do not consider people's feelings. You have no empathy. You don't care who you befriend. It's all about the money. You have all these traits that are considered wrong. This is why God tells us that these individuals, they've became servants of the oppressors, servants of the idols. They've became pigs and apes, soulless and just looking for their self-pleasure, just right now, right here, without even considering the repercussions of what they're going to do. Obviously, every action that you have, it has a certain set of reactions, and these reactions can either be positive or negative. And us as humans, we want to put the best actions that we can in this world so that we have the best reactions from everything that is around us. Now, obviously, sometimes when you feel that it's a negative reaction from the disbeliever, this is something that is positive for you, because the disbeliever, the one that wants to fight you and you eliminate him, let's say intellectually, at this point, you're doing something that is positive because you are removing this cancer in the world with people who are claiming to have some righteousness and are saying clear lies about God because they want to spread immoralities and obscenities. This is something that we constantly see with those people that call themselves Jews. And God tells us that these are going to be some of the staunchest enemies to the believers. We see a lot of people that are into pornographic material and the spreading of pornographic material. They're run by the Jewish community. We have rabbis running big pornography websites, and we have other rabbis that sell these toys that are made for sexual interactions with spouses, yet they have it so open in such a disgusting manner, and yet they call themselves people of God. This is obviously something that the devil promotes. This is something that is satanic in nature, and it's supposed to open the doors of lust for the human beings so that you could find that door on the day of judgment leading you to hell. This is not something that someone who's considered a rabbi or someone who's teaching the religion of God should be doing. And this is why God tells us that we're going to find them as the most hostile towards us, because simply we just jeopardize their well-being, not only in pornography, but they also deal with things like interest in drinking and drugs and things that are not supposed to be done for the communities, because they just simply destroy the communities. We can look right now in the Zionist state. Tel Aviv has quickly become a capital for homosexual activities, which is something that is completely forbidden by the Torah and the Quran and the Gospel. This is not something that God has permitted for us, nor is something that we should be chasing. There are individuals that might be struggling with this issue where they have these desires for same-sex relations, but we have the ability to control that and not pursue these inclinations that we might naturally have, because God is telling us that this life is about self-control, and engaging in the things that these Jewish communities keep selling to the people is not something that is permissible. And the only thing that I find extremely interesting in regards to the whole world is that they themselves don't do it to each other, but yet they force the other people in a way that through economic pressures and other means and propagation at a young age, and propaganda and subversion, where the children are presented with these ideas at such a young age, and because they're so impressionable and naive, it starts to become part of their characteristics and their nature, and this is completely something that is forbidden. And this is why God is going as far as telling us that these individuals, not specifically the Jews, but from the children of Israel, the ones that practice in such derogatory actions and this blasphemy that God has not permitted, they are cursed by the people who are very, very holy. So people who are very close to God, someone like David and Jesus, the son of Mary, from the nonsense that they had to endure from these individuals, it went as far as cursing them. And we could still see that the curse is being enacted. They've obviously have incurred wrath from God, wherein so much that they still practice these things of trying to subvert nations by this derogatory and obscene fashion. And it's just simply building them a bigger hell and a deeper hell and a bigger punishment. That's why I don't think that these criminals are getting away with what they're doing. If they're going to get their responses here on earth, then that would have been their punishment here and now. But God allows them to keep going as far as they want, because they're not going to really affect God as much. Because the servants of God can clearly see through their lies. They can clearly understand why these people are buying the worldly life. And yes, some of them are punished here and punished in the hereafter. God just lets them go so that they would have even a more terrible punishment, because they just don't understand what they're doing. And yet their daily reminders, their daily interactions with certain individuals are telling them that God is not happy with this, that God does not allow this. But you see a lot of them that are considered from the religious class, the ones that are teaching the religion. When they speak about God, they speak in a way that is extremely rude in towards who God is. They keep talking as if that God is working for them. For example, not too long ago, I saw a rabbi writing that God had to repent for his sins for what he has done for the Jews. This is just some extremely crazy language that exalted as the Lord above what they associate to him and what they attribute to him. It seems like God is their servant because they are just not happy with whatever is happening. This is not something that is easy for a believer to understand, and it's just so much hate where you just want to censor it. You want to shut them up for what they're saying. But obviously God has plans for these individuals and what they want to do. But us as believers, it hurts us. And that's why we're going to find this hostility from not only them, but also polytheists. Those polytheists that keep persisting that there's many gods and there's many ways of worshiping God, and even by building rocks and idols and things and attributing that to God. This, again, it hurts the heart of a believer, and the believer just naturally wants to do something to stop this. So this is where it's the striving in the way of God is very important. And the way that they want to strive is the way that you need to match it. And the difference is you're on the side of God. So you would have the victory as long as you're somebody who's going to be persistent and steadfast. And as we said, very patient in what God has shown you. The way that you achieve this is by practicing your religion. You practice it by what God has shown us in this book. This book is telling us something that's extremely clear, as he tells us that these people that say that they're Christians, those that truly practice their religion, from what they have learned, from what they assume that Jesus was telling them, which seems like there's a lot of truth to it, because God tells us that they are showing us a lot of affections. Those that believe and are interacting with the Christians, we see the Christians showing us affection, compassion, because they just simply do not become arrogant. Because they're priests and monks, they teach them in ways of what they learned from what they assume Jesus said, which does align with the Quran in regards to forgiveness, to give the other cheek. And if someone hurts you, just leave it to God, to pray often, to practice patience with the people, to walk with your enemy, to talk nicely to people, to sit there and fight the plan of Satan, because surely the plan of Satan is weak, that you are in this earth and you're here to make it better, but you're not part of this earth, because you are somewhere that is much better than this earth, because God has promised you a place better than that. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the ones who are the servants of God. They might not use the same language that we do, but these are things and concepts that we understand. So when we start to speak about the Quran, just like how the messenger was saying the words that God has been blessing the messenger with for us to know, for the whole world, this mercy for this whole world, we clearly see that these Christians are moved by the word, because they themselves understand how much love there is from God. While we don't truly see this love, this compassion, this understanding from the people who call themselves Jews. Of course, these are general statements. There are some good individuals and some good communities within the Jewish community. There are people who are upstanding and trying to do well, and they do not mind the message that we're going to say. But these are so rare in nature, while the individuals that are hateful and want to hurt and destroy, those are large in numbers. We can clearly see this in the Zionist state in a way that they approach anyone who they assume is what they call as a Muslim. They don't understand the concept of submission, and they don't really care about Abraham, nor do they care about Israel, yet they named themselves after the blessed prophet. Because Israel would not attach himself to such derogatory and obscene and immoral and very barbaric style of ruling, where you are committing genocide and committing blasphemy and you're committing hurt to people that are just simply believing in the God of Abraham. This is not something that Israel would associate with, and obviously Israel is free from himself. Israel would free himself from such individuals, just like how David and Jesus did. But trying to make somebody understand these concepts, somebody who claims that he believes in God, and yet he's so persistent in trying to prove to the world on how low he can be, it's not something that is easy. But this is why God tells us to fight the plan of the devil, because those individuals, they are supporting the plan of the devil. Anyone who wants to stop the path of a believer, or stop the spreading of the message of God, or want to subdue the message of God and take control of it as if they own it, those are individuals who are clearly flawed. And these are the individuals that are going to be lost. And those are the ones who are going to be defeated in this world and the hereafter, provided that in this world we have believers that are striving in the way of God and want to spread the truth, spread the love, spread the compassion, spread the understanding, teach the world something that is extremely simple, that you're not coming back to this world, that this world is going to be taken away from you. And the only thing that you're going to have left is your good deeds. And if your good deeds are not good enough, then on the day of judgment, you will not meet your Lord with a happy and a smile and glee and joy. You're going to be met with depression, regrets, sadness, and punishment, just simply because you wanted to hold on to a world, this illusion, this lies that you keep telling yourself that this is going to last forever. Because if you really loved God, God has made you a promise in the unseen, that there is a world that's better than this. Do you trust your Creator, or do you think you know better? With that said, I hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to our Lord, the Lord of the worlds, and peace be upon you.